Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking at Deborah Yvonne Wims, and she went missing in 1990 at the age of 31. And I wanted you to see this, and this is in the archive of the SeattleTimes.com, and it is all the way from 1992, and it says, "Tragedy strikes a mother twice. Hopes dimming for Green River victim's sister. July 27, 1992. Thomas Gillian. At first glance, she seems no different from the other women who disappear periodically from Pacific Highway South. She's young, a prostitute, a vagabond, and she has a criminal record longer than most professional resumes. What sets her apart is her last name, Wims. Her full name is Deborah Yvonne Wims, and her sister was Cheryl Lee Wims, who was 18 when she was murdered in 1983 by the Green River Killer. Tragically, the past appears to be repeating itself for Ruth Wims, the woman's mother. Cheryl Wims will never come home, and police believe Deborah Wims, last seen in 1990 when she was 31, should have turned up by now. So devastated was Rainier Valley resident Ruth Wims over Cheryl's disappearance and death 9 years ago, she could hardly discuss the ordeal. Today, she flatly declines inquiries about Deborah. It's too painful, she says. She simply wants to be left alone. Two sisters, two disappearances, astoundingly similar. Cheryl vanished on her 18th birthday, May 23, 1983, while on her way from Seattle to Pacific Highway South in what is now SeaTac to pick up a birthday gift. Although there is no record of Cheryl ever being arrested for prostitution, her brother and King County police have said she dabbled in it. In fact, explained police detective Tom Jensen, the woman Cheryl was on her way to see the day she vanished was a prostitute. That woman's pimp, Jensen said, was the brother of Deborah Wims' pimp. Repeatedly during the 1980s, the Green River Task Force was called out to recover victims' remains. With each find, Ruth Wims dreaded getting a call from the medical examiner's office. "Every time a body was found, I went into shock," she said years ago. In March 1984, she dreamed she was happily playing with Cheryl. A few days later, her daughter's skeleton was finally found just north of Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, near a Little League field. More remains were found nearby, but those still have not been identified. Shortly after the discovery, Wims said of Cheryl, the youngest of two boys and two girls, she was just getting ready to be a woman. In the end, Cheryl became one of 49 young women believed slain by the Green River Killer between the summer of 1982 and 1984. The serial murderer has not been caught. It's believed that for some reason he has stopped stalking women, at least in metropolitan Seattle. That makes Deborah Wims' disappearance eerily coincidental, years after the last known date of disappearance, March 1984, of a victim on the official Green River list. Deborah Wims' arrests for auto theft, grand larceny, and prostitution began in the late 1970s as she meandered through Seattle, Las Vegas, San Francisco, Santa Ana, California, and Wichita, Kansas. Despite her younger sister's death, Deborah continued working as a streetwalker. Her last two prostitution arrests occurred on Pacific Highway South on May 10 and June 15, 1990. In the June arrest, she also was booked for resisting arrest after allegedly striking an undercover officer. Deborah last was seen October 25, 1990, on her way to a supermarket on Pacific Highway South and South to 16th Street, an intersection where several Green River victims disappeared. She wore blue jeans and a green bomber jacket. King County police are unsure what to make of Deborah's disappearance, how it fits in the Green River case, or a more current string of deaths in the county, but they feel enough time has elapsed to suspect she was the victim of foul play. Is she dead? Ruth Wims doesn't want to talk about losing her second daughter to the streets. "I personally don't like the looks of it," said Jensen, the only detective still working on the Green River investigation. "It's not encouraging." His boss, Captain T. Nault, is more blunt. "We presume she's dead." So she went missing 1990, October 25th, 1990. She was 31 years old, 5'6" and 120 pounds. She was wearing a green bomber jacket and jeans. Brown hair, hazel eyes. It says brown hazel eyes. There's a dark colored pickup accounted for. Oh. Deborah may use the following aliases, and there's the list of them. And then it talks about her disappearance. Her car was found abandoned at Safeway store at South 216th and Pacific Highway. She was last seen October 25th, 1990, when she left her apartment en route to a supermarket on Pacific Highway South and South 216th Street. Deborah was a prostitute and transient in 1990 and had substantial criminal record dating back to the 1970s. And it lists the crimes, and it talks about the places that the newspaper mentioned. It also mentions her skeletal remains found March 1984 just north of Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. It talks about her sister disappearing on her birthday in 1983. Talks about their pimps being brothers. So then it goes on to talk about Gary Leon Ridgeway. So, yeah. And you can pause this and read it if you like. I don't want to read all of it. So, okay. And then let's see. There's some photos of her, and this is the Doe Network. So you can find information there as well. And then we go to Wikipedia so that you can see things about Gary Ridgeway, and you can see a list of his victims on here. And he claims to have killed 71 people at one point. One time he said there were so many he couldn't count. Another time I think he said 65. And another time he said 71. And this lists 48. So we're wondering, was there 22 other victims? And if there were, who were they? Right? And then there's a timeline that you can find. You might have to Google it because I saved it. But it says Gary Leon Ridgeway, Green River Killer, information, who summarized the information. It's the Department of Psychology, Radford University. It's summarized by Brenda Lackey, Carly Jones, and Julie Johnson. And you can find that online. And I like having the timeline. So, okay, so what I find interesting is I'm looking at, I think it's the timeline, and doesn't it say he has a maroon truck? I just want to make sure. Yeah, see, he is driving a maroon colored 1975 Dodge truck in 1982. And then it's got like a camper shell on the back of it, and I just wanted to mention Susan Libby Marable, but this is 1991, and I don't know if he's driving it in 1991. Is he even out in 1991? So maybe I shouldn't be mentioning that. When does he gets arrested in 2001. So he is out in 1991, and it doesn't show that he's killing anybody, but in 1991 this girl goes missing. Right here, the bartender saw her getting into a maroon pickup truck, which he recognized as owned by Bill Robinson, and she's never been heard from again. And see, here I am thinking, well, she had like kind of PTSD because she had an attacker. John Robinson was convicted of first-degree rape and kidnapping in her case. And he had threatened her and her family in court, and she disappeared a few weeks later. And the bartender insists that the truck that she got into was Bill Robinson. So I'm thinking, wow, Bill Robinson, maybe he was a killer, maybe he killed her, maybe he killed other people in the areas. But what's interesting is that it's a maroon pickup truck, and I'm wondering if Gary Ridgeway, because he wasn't killing anybody here, you don't see him killing anyone in 1991 in this area, maybe he was killing people in this area, because it was a tavern, right? She was last seen in Yakima, Washington, April 23rd, 1991. She had gone out with friends to the Sports Center Tavern. Okay, According to her sister, Maribel got involved with drugs after she graduated nursing school and wound up losing her nursing career and custody of her daughter due to drug abuse. By the time of her disappearance, she was a street prostitute. See? She had been abducted and raped by a stranger in 1990, and that was one of the Robinson brothers. But the maroon pickup truck, it does give you that thought that maybe she was a victim of the Green River Killer, right? Or maybe that, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, it's interesting. It is. Because I was just, and then this girl, Julia Lynn Miranda, which I thought was probably also killed by Bill Robinson, because she was last seen, she was getting into a vehicle with an unidentified driver in the parking lot of Yakima Sports Center in Yakima, Washington. She worked at the prostitute at her time of her disappearance. So here I was thinking I was like, well, why are they thinking Robert Lee Yates did it? Because when they got the Robinson brothers and they've got that maroon pickup truck. But now I'm wondering, when did she go missing? December 7th, 1990. And when did he get arrested? Let's see, December 7th, 1990. And he didn't get arrested till, and he doesn't have anything right there. And the Green River Task Force is disbanded. So then there's all these girls that go missing in Yakima, Washington. And I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if the Robinson brother had something to do with it. But now I'm thinking, how far away is that? How far away is that from where he was? If he was I don't know where he was living at the time. He moved to Kent, Washington and Auburn, Washington. But if he's still living in Seattle, Washington, I mean, how far away is it? Let's see how far away it is. Let's see. Maybe he drove there every now and then. Seattle, Washington to Yakima, Washington. 2 hours and 15 minutes. Easily he could have done that. And then, yeah, so I'm wondering if it was, because he said he killed 22 more people. And so many people went missing from that area. And they were finding Jane Does that they didn't know who they were. And one girl had the front of her hair bleached a little bit. And I was wondering if she did it or I don't know. So, yeah. I'm wondering now if these aren't where his other victims are. And then this girl, I'm also wondering, Spokane, Washington, right? This was 1974, and I don't know if he would have done it or not. Because where was he at? Let's see where he was in 1974. But something that I read about it reminded me of him. 1974, he's married. He's been discharged from the Navy, and he's married. And I'm not sure where he's living. I wish it would say right where he was living. Washington State, it says. Might have to do my own timeline so I can see where he was living. So he's living in Washington State in 1974, right? He got married in 1973. He's been discharged from the Navy a few years before. And this girl goes missing. She is in Spokane, Washington. 17 years old, right? She left school, she's got menstrual cramps, she's unable to find a ride, and decided to walk 2 miles to her home. She was last seen on Havana Street near 37th Avenue. There were reports that a green Ford Pinto station wagon was in the area, but let's see. There was a witness, right? There it is. A witness may have seen Partridge during her walk home. Authorities haven't disclosed her identity but a Caucasian male in his 40s or 50s, as well as a white truck with a dark colored door and a van back end. So that could be a truck with like a camper shell on it, right? And I don't know how old he was to say if he was in his 40s or 50s, but yeah. And I thought he had a gun. I thought she'd seen him with a gun forcing her to get into the vehicle. But I can't remember now. So I know she was on horse or something. Why didn't I see that? Let me look up the word horse. Doesn't show. I thought the witness was on horseback or something. I feel like I'm missing stuff, but anyway, I'm wondering if that wasn't him too, because 1974, and he said there were 20. He said there was like 22 other people, and they asked him about killing people in the 70s, and he said something about it, made it sound like he could have done it, like he could have killed people in the 70s, but I think he avoided answering the question. But they say that he's a pathological liar, which wouldn't surprise me because, he's a killer, murderer, But that's 4 hours away. So, maybe he did it. It's possible. To me, I think it's highly possible that he could have killed this girl. Because he had that truck, and I don't know when he got the truck, but, I don't know if he had access to a truck, but I think it's highly possible he could have killed this girl in 1974. So I just wanted to mention that because he said something about not remembering or something about the 70s when they asked him if he killed people in the 70s. So even though they say his first victim was 1982, they also have that one girl that they say that they thought he killed in 1981, and I don't think she was his first victim, because remember, he stabbed that boy when he was younger. So, and who was that girl? Who was the girl in 1981? I think her name started with like an L, was like Lori or Laura or something. Louise Marie Sanders, that was her name. She was 35 years old, and it was 1981, and they believe that she might have been a victim as well. So, and that was 1981. So, and you can look online and find more information about him, but don't forget to stop and pray for his victims and his family and their families and the investigators and everybody that's been traumatized by the events, because that's horrific. And don't forget to pray that the cases get solved and that they find who did it, and because he was taking belongings from one person and putting them with another person to make it harder for them to figure out who the victim was, so that when they found somebody, they wouldn't know who they were, because he had belongings from one person he'd killed, and then he was moving their bones around. And not only was he moving their bones around, but sometimes he was moving part of the bones around and leaving part of the bones there to also make it harder for investigators. So they might find part of their bones at one time, and then they might find part of them later. And then if you have any information about any of these cases, let's say somebody got drunk and started talking, and you're thinking, oh, it's hearsay, but hey, it's only hearsay if you're going to court. If you're trying to help them solve a case and you have information that you think might be relevant, or you're not sure if it's relevant, contact authorities and let them know what you know, whether you know it or not. Maybe it's just something that you heard, but you feel like it might be important and you're not sure. Let them decide if it's relevant. If you have any information that you think could help them solve these cases, give them the information. Let them know. Don't carry it to your grave or whatever. And also, please feel free to leave comments. Do you think like Susie Libby Marable, do you think she could have been a victim of Gary Leon Ridgeway? Doesn't he just seem, he doesn't look like somebody you would think would be a murderer. He doesn't. You would have no way of knowing, everything he suffered as a child, or the fact that he got gonorrhea and possibly herpes and things like that, or things that he suffered and what he went through, and you would look at him and you would think that he was a nice person. And they say he must have been pretty intelligent, because some of the things that he did were pretty intelligent, even though Ted Bundy didn't think he would be intelligent. But he did some things, to help it make it harder for them to solve the crimes. And he killed so many people. Like, he just snapped and just started killing person after person after person after person after person. And you would have thought they would have caught him. And while he was doing this, people were still getting in the car with him, and they didn't quit. They just still were, he was still able to keep killing people, because people didn't say, oh, I'm not going to do this. Oh, I could get killed, No. It's crazy. But do you think he could have killed her? Do you think he could have killed this girl? And what do you think about this girl in 1974? Do you think it's possible that that might have been him that killed her? Or do you think it was somebody that lived locally to where she lived? You would think that if you're going to kill somebody, you don't kill somebody in your own backyard, right? But then he was living right there and killing people right there in that area, so I don't know. Anyway, please feel free to leave comments and let me know what your thoughts are. And I just want to thank you so much for tuning into my channel, and tell you to have a great day. I appreciate my viewers, because I don't have very many. I'm just a small channel. But thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.